89.5 WNCK. It is the first edition of Town Talk. I'm your host, Chris Reiser, so let's take a big bottle of champagne, crack it right off the side of the radio station here, and welcome our very first guest. It's Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Hi, Libby.
Hi, Chris.
Great for you to come in, and thank you so much for kicking off this brand new show. We're very excited to get to know yourself and some of the folks who really are the people that make this town of Nantucket happen. Over the next few weeks, we'll be chatting with yourself and some of the other folks from the Board of Selectmen, some of the folks from the DPW, and perhaps some of the folks from the fire department, the police department. But let's start, first of all, with you and your job as the town manager here in Nantucket. How long have you been the town manager, first of all?
I've been the town manager since 1995, so 22 years.
Oh, my gosh.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
And I mean, to look at you, it looks like you just started yesterday, so we need to know your secret,
you're
first
so
of all.
Kind. Well, I don't know what the secret is, but before I became the town manager, I was the assistant for about 5 years, and then I was basically an administrative assistant in the office for a couple of years before that. I started overall with the town in 1988, so I've been with the town for just about 29 years, and here we are.
Look at that. That's amazing. So you know everything that's going on.
Well, I don't know if I know everything. I try to know everything, but it's just not always entirely possible.
So just as a quick overview, how exactly does the town government work here in Nantucket?
Okay, so we have what's called a council manager form of government. We have a 5-member elected board of selectmen, and the town manager is their executive who is charged with the administrative day-to-day operation of the town. The board is meant to be a policy-making board, although they do have some other responsibilities from time to time. And we are governed by a charter. It's called the town charter. It's easily found online, in addition to the town code, which contains all of the town's bylaws. The bylaws basically regulate what the town is authorized to do and not do, along with all of the Massachusetts general laws. And the charter basically outlines who does what.
Okay.
Essentially. So I'm just glancing at the charter here as we're speaking, and there's a section called Roles of Selectmen and Town Manager, and it outlines basically, like I said, who does what. So I am responsible for the overall operation of the town through its various departments. There are 3 agencies that are not included in town administration. Those are the airport, the water company, and the school department.
Okay.
All of the other town departments are under my direct jurisdiction. I report out to the board routinely on different items. I have something like 13 duties, and they range from, I'm just reading from the charter now. In particular, the town manager shall supervise, direct, and be responsible for the efficient administration of all officers, boards, councils, commissions, and committees appointed by the town manager and all other town functions for which the town manager is given responsibility by this charter, town bylaw, administrative code, or other legislation, and may issue administrative orders. I don't issue administrative orders too often, but there's other things like I prepare the annual town meeting warrant for adoption by the board. I'm present at the meetings of the Board of Selectmen. I am supposed to prepare the annual budget for the board's review, and then we go on to other reviews. There are licenses and real estate issues that are handled by the town manager, things like that. There are some appointments that I make. The town manager here in Nantucket appoints the heads of all town administration departments. However, that appointment is subject to what's called a resolution of disapproval by the board. So basically, I tell them who I'm going to appoint. This would be a department head level position, excluding any elected department heads. Mm-hmm. And they have a certain amount of time within which to make this, quote, vote of disapproval.
Okay.
So I generally, of course, want to make sure I'm not going to get a vote like that. So I try to talk to them all ahead of time and review whoever it is that I'm intending to appoint. And then there's other town departments and some boards, committees, and commissions that are included in town administration. And that all sounds, kind of, that's really just a general overview. But my day is
action-packed.
Varied. It's action-packed.
Yes.
It is. I was thinking I would review
a day in the life.
A day in the life. So
sure.
Today, for example, the assistant town manager and I meet generally Monday mornings right around 8 o'clock to review what's coming up in the week, what projects we might be working on that need to get done, what is upcoming on the BOS agenda, who needs to be talked to about what, that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Today, we had a personnel matter that we had to take up at 8:30. We have a semi-regular energy meeting. And so we meet with our energy coordinator, the facilities manager from DPW, the DPW director, Greg and I, the assistant town manager and I, and we go over energy things. So we sometimes get a little carried away with that, and that takes about an hour or more. But Lauren Sinatra, our energy coordinator, always is involved in so many things. And so we just are, it's a touch base with her.
Okay.
We did that, and then right now is budget season. So the finance director, myself, our budget analyst, finance analyst, Julia Lindner, and Greg and I spent about 2 hours going over our development of the upcoming budget. And at this point in the process, we generally have significantly more requests than we are going to be able to fund. So we were going through and trying to apply prioritization criteria to all of the items and discussing who we need to talk to further about their items, or who we need to maybe give some bad news to that their item isn't going to be recommended, and that sort of thing. So it's that time of year where we're doing that. The police chief and our projects administrator, Erica Mooney, and I went over a parking issue after lunch around 1 o'clock. We had a meeting about that. We had an employee appreciation event on Friday. We've been doing this annually. This is the third year that we've tried something different. Prior to the third time of this, we were doing something else. And we've been renting out the VFW for a few hours on this particular Friday night. And we have a buffet kind of dinner sort of thing for the employees, and games for kids. There's a bake-off. And we issue years of service pins. And years of service pins are issued in 5-year increments. So we had a number of people getting 5 years, 10, 15, 20, 25. We had one 30-year person, wow, 3 35-year people, and 2 41-year people.
You're kidding.
So we tried to ramp up as we went for those who were getting the pins. In any event, it was a really fun time, I think, and we thank everybody involved. But we had a little bit of a wrap up today, kind of a debrief about what went well, what didn't, what we might want to change for next year. And then I meet with the selectmen themselves on a pretty regular basis, either once a week generally or every other. And
individually, you mean?
Individually, and a couple of them I meet at the same time.
Okay.
So usually on Monday afternoons, I meet with Rita and Jason. Mm-hmm. So we had just finished our meeting a little while ago. You know, it's helpful for me to be able to go over with them what's coming up on the agenda, what projects we're working on. And they sometimes have questions about maybe inquiries they're getting from constituents. And
sure, because they're still getting their feet wet to a certain extent.
They are a bit, but they're well into things now. And we're talking over agenda items and stuff like that more, and, you know, what's coming up and going on. So that was a day in the life for today, and that was a light day.
That's a light Monday?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a light Monday.
Incredible. So if you were to, Libby, if you were to contrast this, you know, our form of government here with say, a typical mayor situation and a city council, it seems to me, and I'm by no means an expert, but it seems to me that this is a more democratic approach where a group of people get to vote on the issues as opposed to one person who says it's my way or the highway. Yes,
this is very different from a mayor form of government, and that form of government is typically, you know, within a city atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And there are so many more people in a city that this is the way it's evolved to have the mayor council form. And there's some other forms too, but this form has been with us for quite a while, and I think that the Nantucket Board of Selectmen, each time we have a new board, I feel like they're even getting generally more and more open to the public. We're trying to be really transparent with all of our information. People are very much welcome to speak at selectmen's meetings.
And drop by and sit in and listen.
And sit in and listen, yep. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of venues now for where you can get information. We've got a very robust website. In fact, we've been told by Civic Plus, which is the host of the website, that we have more information on our website than any of their other municipal clients. And they've had to get additional servers for all of our information, or one anyway. And we are really trying to get at issuing an e-newsletter once a month. I do a weekly-ish cable TV show with Gino Gang, and I do the radio with you on Thursday mornings.
On Thursday morning, sure.
And this Town Talk was something that we thought would be a great way to also get information out to people, because a lot of times, until something's going to affect somebody individually, personally, they sometimes don't pay too much attention to it. And then they say, well, I never heard about that before. How would I know? So this is meant to be yet another way that we're just trying to get information out to people.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, if folks have questions about anything, they can pass them along. Just send it to info@ACKFM, and then in the subject line, just put Town Talk so we know how to direct it. But it's as simple as that, info@ACKFM.com, and then Town Talk in the subject line. And, we'll either pass it along to the right person or we'll ask them here on the show as the weeks go by. Another question for you: who runs what over there, as far as the pecking order of things outside? We know you're the manager, of course, but outside of that, who's running what as far as the departments are concerned?
Well, we have 12 departments that are directly in town administration: police, fire, public works / solid waste, health, plus planning and land use services, our island home, sewer, human resources, town admin, finance, information technology, and natural resources. We also have the airport, the water company, and the school, and those departments I certainly communicate with on a very regular basis. We also have a county. The Registry of Deeds is the other county department in addition to county administration, and the town clerk is the only other office besides Registry of Deeds that's headed by an elected official.
Okay.
So those departments that I mentioned, the ones in town admin, I meet with each department head, just about each department head. I try to meet with them on a monthly basis. We have an all department head meeting once a month, and there's a lot of emailing that goes on, getting information back and forth, telling people stuff. But I have an awful lot of meetings with people one-on-one. I think, I'd like to have more, actually, because that's the best way to get things done. And it's just so much that we end up doing a lot of emailing. Greg, the assistant town manager, handles some of these departments as well. And I just feel like, I probably get, people are probably going to say, oh, yeah, right. I probably get a little bit too involved sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I really feel like as the manager, I need to know what's going on.
Sure.
And it's fine for people to brief me later and tell me, but sometimes it's a little hard for me not to be overly involved because I just want to know what's happening and I might want to say something about it.
Right, and you want to get an answer,
Yes.
as opposed to emails. And we had spoken about this before. So many things get lost in an email.
Absolutely.
So much nuance, never comes through.
Yep.
You never really, can get 100% of a grasp on something until you're actually sitting down with the person and looking at them and say, okay, so what are you really trying to say here?
Absolutely. And there's just too many times when the response doesn't come through in the email, or there's some kind of a tone that was not intended probably, but people interpret things differently, and sometimes you miss a word in email and you...
Right. One-on-one is still the best way to get anything done as far as I'm concerned.
It is, and it does take a lot of time.
Sure does. Speaking of things getting done, what are some of the current projects we're working on?
Okay, so as I mentioned, we are well underway with developing our next year's budget. Mm-hmm. We are in the process of developing what would be on the annual town meeting warrant for 2018. Citizen warrant articles were due today, so I'll be interested to see what came in. And we've been talking to the board. We've talked to the board a couple of times now about warrant articles that the board might want to sponsor. We're going to talk about that again at our meeting next Wednesday, the 29th. And we've just finished a special town meeting, as you know, at the beginning of the month, so we're doing the follow-up from that. We are meeting about weekly right now with the Capital Program Committee, sorting through the capital project request for the next fiscal year and also the updating of the 10-year capital plan. And those things alone take a lot of time. But in addition to that, we've got several sewer projects ongoing. We've got DPW involved in any number of things. All the departments have some project or other going on right now, or multiple ones. We do, and most importantly maybe, have a special election coming up on Tuesday, November 28th, and that is involving one ballot question for supplemental funding for the fire station project, the new fire station. And this new station would be constructed adjacent to the current public safety facility. And we hope that people will get out and vote Tuesday, November 28th. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
So is this going to
please
be
vote.
all the bells and whistles, no pun intended, for the fire department, or just something that we need, or is it something that we really, really want, and they've put in a wish list of?
It's something that we really, really need, and the wish list has been pared down quite a bit.
Okay.
So one of the things that the town of Nantucket has a little bit of a habit of doing is building things that are too small to begin with. So we tried not to make that mistake with the public safety facility, and as a result, there's been some amount of criticism about how large people seem to think that facility is. But if you go on a tour through it, which I encourage everybody to do, that building is heavily used with meetings, other public uses, and the police department finally has enough room to really function the way they ought to be functioning. There's a good-sized conference room in there that we use for meetings all the time, as well as a couple of other meeting rooms. The new fire station initially was meant to be bigger than it's ultimately going to be now. And we'd like to get a lot more of their equipment undercover. It's not obviously good for it to be sitting around outside all the time.
Sure.
But there are a few things that were deemed early on maybe not, we didn't want to spend the money on. So one of those things is some training space. There's what we call the training room, which is a training room in the current public safety building. And that has been very much taken over by public meetings because there's a lack of decent meeting space for all our boards, committees, and commissions. However, when the new fire station is ultimately built, that training room is going to have to really turn back into a training room because, like I said, there's not a lot of training space that was incorporated into the new building for cost reasons.
Okay.
So we're going to be probably moving a number of these public meetings to the school into the large group instruction room, the LGI. And that's a meeting space that we're somewhat familiar with. We've used it before, and fairly recently the school has renovated that room. So it's a better meeting space now, and it will allow for televising of the meetings. But it is at a different location, so people will have to go there.
Okay. Well, it's a give and take with anything.
It is. It is. But we do hope that the fire station will become a reality at some point soon because the fire department itself does need additional space. And we, again, encourage people to go on a tour of that building. It's much too small for what they're trying to accomplish there. And they have some pieces of equipment outside.
To my way of thinking, with the dollar number of the properties that we have here in Nantucket, by golly, we better have the best fire team equipment with the best response times on the planet to protect these properties that we've got here. To my mind, shouldn't even be a debate.
You would think so.
Right? But there you go. Okay, so back to the task at hand here for Town Talk, which is a conversation between the folks who are running the town and the folks who are living here in the town and the county. So we're doing that right now.
We're doing it right now. So like you said earlier, we're hoping to get one by one the department heads in here to talk about their departments, answer questions that people might have, get information out that they want to get out. We've talked a bit in the past about a kind of a government 101 sort of a program. The town of Barnstable has a nice program that they do for the public. It's very similar to our Citizen Police Academy, which, by the way, just wound up its 8th session last week. And they've put, I think, about 115 people or so through that program. They go once a week for 2 or 3 hours, I think, at a time. They learn about really every aspect of the police department. They do a ride-along. They get to go to the gun range. They have a really modern simulation that they do, that they take people through of, you're a police officer and these different things are coming at you and how do you react?
Nice.
So that's
very state of the art.
Very state of the art. But also our police department has trained on it and used it, and it has perhaps led to some resolution of situations which might otherwise have had a very bad outcome.
Okay.
So anyway, back to Government 101. We've talked about doing that, but it does take a lot of time to plan something like that. So we're thinking about starting out smaller, and maybe we have some lesser number of sessions that we just invite the public to rather than having it be sort of an application process, which is what they do in Barnstable and what we do for the Citizen Police Academy. And just invite people to come learn about, Prop 2.5 and its impact on the town of Nantucket, or how many boards, committees, and commissions do we have and what do they do? To, what does town admin do all day long? Or any department, pick a department.
Sure.
And, just that kind of thing. So we're mulling that over, but we're always trying to look for ways to get information out to the public. So we appreciate
information
this
is power.
opportunity. Yeah.
I learned that at a very young age. You know, when I would
It
come
is.
home with a bad report card, my father would look at it and he would go, well, you know, Chris, the world needs ditch diggers too. And information is power. That's what my mother always used to say. But this is the very first show, and we're delighted to kick it off, and we've got big plans for the future. And we thank you so much, Libby Gibson, for coming in and helping us kick this off. It's Town Talk on WNCK, Nantucket's public radio. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.